My name is Zara. And this is how I made my parents realize that the daughter they threw away was the only one worth keeping. I'm sitting in my corner office overlooking downtown Denver, watching my phone buzz for the 15th time today. Mom's name flashes on the screen again. I let it go to voicemail just like the other 14 calls. Zara, please. We need to talk about Ivy's wedding. She's having a breakdown and I delete it without listening to the rest. 3 years ago, I would have dropped everything to fix whatever mess my little sister created. 3 years ago, I was still their obedient daughter, grateful for scraps of attention while Ivy got the feast. But that was before Christmas morning 2023. Before the Tesla with the giant red bow. Before the $3 candle that shattered 24 years of hope. My assistant knocks. Ms. Chen, your parents are here. They say it's urgent. Through my office window I see them in the lobby below. Dad's pacing, his face red with that familiar anger. Mom's clutching her purse like a lifeline, probably rehearsing whatever guilt trip she's planned. They look smaller than I remember. Desperate. But tell them I'm in meetings all day, I say, turning back to my computer. Because here's what they don't understand yet, what they're about to learn the hard way. When you treat someone like they're disposable for 24 years, don't be shocked when they finally dispose of you. The phone buzzes again. This time it's Ivy. Zara, please answer. The wedding's in 2 weeks and everything's falling apart. I need you. I silence the phone and smile. Some stories end with revenge served cold. This one's about to get ice cold. Have you ever been the family scapegoat? Comment below, because what happened next will make you question everything about unconditional love. Let me take you back to who I used to be. The girl who believed that love was something you earned through perfect grades, clean rooms, and never asking for too much. I was 2 years old when Ivy arrived, and from that moment I became invisible. Not dramatically, just quietly erased like pencil marks under fresh ink. While Ivy got ballet lessons at 5, I got told we couldn't afford activities for both kids. When she wanted a new bike at 8, Dad drove to the store that same day. When I asked for art supplies at 10, Mom sighed and said maybe next month. Next month never came. By high school, the pattern was carved in stone. Ivy's bedroom looked like a Pinterest board. White furniture, fairy lights, a walk-in closet bursting with clothes. My room. Hand-me-down everything and a desk I'd bought myself with babysitting money. Zara's just more practical, Mom would tell relatives. She doesn't need all the frills Ivy does. Practical. Their code word for disposable. College was my chance to prove my worth. While Ivy partied through her senior year, knowing her full ride was waiting, I worked 25 hours a week at a coffee shop, studied until 2 a.m., and graduated valedictorian. We're so proud, Dad said at graduation, then spent the entire dinner talking about Ivy's prom dress. I moved back home after college to save money, the responsible choice. Ivy got the master suite when she turned 18 because she needs more space for her things. I got the basement room that flooded every spring. For 3 years, I lived like a grateful tenant in my childhood home. I paid rent, bought my own groceries, and never complained when Ivy's friends took over the living room at midnight. I watched her get a brand new iPhone every year while I kept my cracked screen taped together. Watched Dad slip her hundreds for shopping trips while I counted quarters for gas money. But Christmas was supposed to be different. Christmas was family. Christmas was when they'd remember they had 2 daughters. Every December, I'd feel that familiar flutter of hope. Maybe this year they'd see me. Really see me. I'd spend weeks picking out thoughtful gifts, wrapping them perfectly, imagining their surprised smiles. Ivy would get me something last minute from the mall, if she remembered at all. Christmas morning 2023. I woke up with that same stupid hope burning in my chest. 24 years old and still believing in fairy tales. I should have known better. The signs were everywhere. Dad's secretive phone calls, Mom's guilty glances, Ivy's smug little smiles all December long. But hope is a dangerous drug. It makes you blind to what's right in front of you. If you've ever been the responsible child while your sibling got everything, you know this feeling. Subscribe because what happened next will make your blood boil. That Christmas morning, my hope didn't just die. It was murdered. Christmas morning 2023. The day my parents showed me exactly how little I meant to them, in front of everyone who mattered. The living room buzzed with extended family. Aunt Lucia, Uncle Pete, my cousins from California. Everyone gathered around our massive tree, coffee steaming, cameras ready for the annual gift exchange. Ivy bounced on the couch like she was still 12, not 22. She kept glancing toward the garage door with this electric excitement that made my stomach twist. Okay. Mom clapped her hands. Big gifts first this year. Dad disappeared into the garage. I heard the mechanical whir of the door opening, then his voice. Ivy, sweetheart, come outside. We all followed, a parade of curious relatives stepping into the crisp Denver morning. And there it was, Tesla Model S. Midnight black, gleaming like liquid obsidian under the winter sun. A massive red velvet bow stretched across the hood, the kind you see in car commercials. Ivy screamed, actually screamed like she'd won the lottery. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. She ran circles around the car, hands pressed to her cheeks. Is this really mine? Really mine? Dad beamed, chest puffed with pride. $75,000 of the finest engineering money can buy. The family erupted in cheers. Phones came out, videos started rolling. Ivy posed against the hood while everyone gushed about how lucky she was, how generous Mom and Dad were. I stood there frozen, watching my sister get handed more money than I'd made in 2 years of working full-time. Zara! Mom's voice cut through my shock. Don't you want to congratulate your sister? All eyes turned to me, waiting, expecting me to smile and play my role as the supportive big sister. It's beautiful, I managed. Ivy hugged me, bouncing with manic energy. Can you believe it? I mean, I knew they were planning something big, but this... She knew. Course she knew. We trudged back inside for the rest of the gifts. My cousins whispered about the Tesla, calculating payments, wondering how my parents could afford it. Uncle Pete joked about adopting himself into the family. The pile under the tree had dwindled to a few small boxes. Ivy tore through hers. Designer perfume, AirPods Pro, a Tiffany bracelet. Each gift worth more than my monthly rent. Finally, one box remained. Wrapped in discount paper from the drugstore. That's yours, honey, Mom said, not quite meeting my eyes. Picked it up. Light as air. My name scrawled in Mom's handwriting, like an afterthought. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a vanilla candle. The kind you find in the clearance bin at Dollar General. The price sticker was still on the bottom. $2.99. The room went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, the awkward, suffocating kind where everyone pretends they didn't see what they just saw. Aunt Lucia cleared her throat. That's nice, dear. Ivy's face flushed. Even she looked embarrassed. It smells lovely, I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. $3. After 24 years of being the perfect daughter, they valued me at $3. I excused myself to the bathroom and stared at my reflection. Same face, same person, but something fundamental had shifted. The last thread of hope, the one I'd been clinging to my entire life, had finally snapped. When I came back downstairs, the family was outside again, taking more pictures with the Tesla. I slipped upstairs and started packing. I moved methodically, folding clothes, gathering toiletries. 3 years of living in this house, and everything I owned fit in 2 suitcases. I was loading my car when Dad appeared in the driveway. Where do you think you're going? Home, I said, not looking up. This is your home. I laughed, a sound like breaking glass. No, Dad. This is Ivy's home. It always has been. I opened the driver's door of my Honda Civic. The car I'd been driving for 3 years, making payments on, maintaining, insuring. The car I thought was mine. Stop right there. His voice turned sharp, dangerous. That's not your car. I froze, keys halfway to the ignition. Excuse me. The title's in my name. Insurance is under my policy. You take that car, and I'll report it stolen. The words hit like physical blows. Dad, I've been making the payments. With money you earned living in my house, eating my food. He stepped closer, blocking my path. You want to leave. Fine. But you're not taking my property. My property. Like I was a thief trying to steal from my own family. The relatives had gathered on the porch, pretending not to watch while hanging on every word. Ivy stood behind them, clutching her Tesla keys, her face pale with something that might have been shame. So let me understand this, I said, my voice carrying across the yard. Ivy gets a $75,000 car as a gift. I get a $3 candle and threatened with arrest for driving the car I've been paying for. Dad's jaw tightened. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app. I've paid $18,000 toward this car. I have the receipts. That was rent. Contribution to household expenses. The lie was so brazen, so perfectly delivered, that for a moment I almost believed him. Almost fell back into the old pattern of accepting whatever reality they created. But something had changed in that bathroom mirror. The girl who would have apologized, who would have begged for forgiveness, was gone. I handed him the keys. Keep it, I said. Keep everything. What I did next changed everything. I walked away from that house with nothing but my suitcases and my dignity. And that was the moment my real life began. I called an Uber from the end of their driveway, standing there with 2 suitcases like a refugee from my own life. The driver, a woman in her 50s, glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Rough day. The worst, I whispered and started crying for the first time in years. She didn't ask questions. Just drove to the cheapest motel I could find and helped me carry my bags to room 237. A place that smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I sat on that scratchy bedspread for 3 hours, staring at the wall, feeling like I'd been hollowed out with a spoon. 24 years of my life had been a lie. Every "we love you" had conditions. Every "we're proud of you" came with invisible asterisks. But somewhere around midnight something shifted. The grief crystallized into something harder, sharper. Clarity. I opened my laptop and started researching. If Dad wanted to play legal games, I'd learn the rules. Colorado law was clear. If someone makes payments on a vehicle, contributes to insurance, and has exclusive use, they can establish ownership regardless of whose name is on the title. I had 3 years of bank statements proving every payment. But that was just the beginning. I dug deeper, following a thread that had been nagging at me for years. My college fund. The one that supposedly never existed when I needed it for tuition. I remembered being 8 years old, overhearing Grandma Chen talking to Mom about the money she'd left for my education. Make sure it goes to Zara's schooling, she'd said. That girl's going to do something special. Grandma died when I was 10. I'd asked about the money once in high school, and Mom had looked confused. What money, honey? Grandma didn't leave anything for college. Now, sitting in that motel room, I wondered if that was another lie. I spent the next week becoming a detective of my own life. I requested bank records, dug through old documents, called the lawyer who'd handled Grandma's estate. The truth hit me like a freight train. There had been a college fund, $50,000, specifically designated for my education in Grandma's will. The money had been transferred to my parents when I turned 18, right around the time they bought Ivy her first car. They'd stolen my inheritance and used it to spoil my sister. I sat in that motel room, surrounded by printed bank statements and legal documents, and felt something I'd never experienced before. Pure, crystalline rage. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold, calculating kind that changes you at a molecular level. Subscribe now, because what I discovered next will make you question every family secret you've never thought to investigate. Hired a lawyer. Not some bargain basement attorney, but a real one. The kind who wears $1,000 suits and has a corner office downtown. This is fraud, she said, reviewing my documents. clear-cut misappropriation of designated funds. Can we get it back? We can try. But litigation is expensive, and family cases get messy. I looked at my bank account. $3,000 to my name. Barely enough for another month in the motel. What if I don't want the money back? Yes. What if I just want them to know that I know? She smiled, the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. That's much more interesting. While building my legal case, I was also rebuilding myself. I found a studio apartment in Capitol Hill. Nothing fancy but mine. I bought a used Toyota with cash, registered in my name only. Most importantly, I started therapy. Dr. Reeves was a no-nonsense woman who specialized in family trauma. Our first session, she asked me to describe my childhood in one word. Grateful, I said automatically. Try again. Thought harder. Invisible. Better. Now tell me why you think that's normal. It wasn't normal. Nothing about my childhood was normal. Healthy parents don't pit their children against each other. They don't steal inheritance money. They don't threaten their own daughter with arrest for driving a car she's been paying for. The hardest part wasn't accepting that my parents were toxic. It was accepting that I'd been complicit in my own erasure. Every time I'd smiled through their favoritism, every time I'd made excuses for their behavior, every time I'd told myself at least they love me in their own way, I'd been enabling the abuse. You can't change them, Dr. Reeves said during our 6th session. But you can change how you respond to them. I don't want to respond to them at all. That's also a choice. And it's a valid one. The transformation wasn't instant. Some days I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to call mom, muscle memory from 24 years of seeking their approval. Other days I'd feel guilty for abandoning them, even though they'd abandoned me first. But slowly, something beautiful started happening. Without their constant criticism and neglect, I began to bloom. I threw myself into work with a focus I'd never had before. No more family drama sucking up my mental energy. No more walking on eggshells around Ivy's moods or Dad's temper. I got promoted within 6 months. Then again 6 months after that. I made friends. Real friends who valued me for who I was, not what I could do for them. I dated without worrying about bringing someone home to meet parents who'd probably ignore them anyway. For the first time in my life, I was living for me. The phone calls started 3 months after I left. First mom, then dad, then Ivy. I let them all go to voicemail, then blocked their numbers. I wasn't ready to hear their voices. Wasn't ready for the manipulation, the guilt trips, the promises to do better, that would last exactly until they needed something from me. I was finally free. And I intended to stay that way. But freedom, I was about to learn, comes with a price they weren't prepared to pay. 6 months into my new life, I realized something powerful. The best revenge isn't destruction. It's success they can't touch. But first, I had to make sure they couldn't touch me legally either. My lawyer had been busy. The car situation was easier than expected. Colorado's laws about equitable ownership meant my payment records spoke louder than Dad's title. We filed the paperwork, and within 30 days, my Toyota was officially mine. Not that it mattered anymore, but it felt good to close that loop. The college fund was trickier. $50,000 stolen and spent over 4 years. We could pursue it, but litigation would cost almost as much as we'd recover. Unless, my lawyer said with that predatory smile, you want to use it as leverage. I did want that. But not yet. First, I needed to build something they couldn't tear down. Ever wonder how toxic families react when their scapegoat disappears? Subscribe because their desperation is about to get pathetic. My promotion to senior marketing coordinator came with a corner office and a salary that made my old life look like poverty. I wasn't just surviving without them, I was thriving. But the real work was happening behind the scenes. I started with Aunt Lucia. She'd always been the family truth-teller, the one who asked uncomfortable questions at gatherings. I reached out carefully, testing the waters. I've been thinking about Christmas, I said during our coffee date. That whole car situation was awkward. Her face darkened. Awkward. Honey, that was cruel. Pete and I talked about it for weeks. Really? A $3 candle while Ivy gets a Tesla. We've watched your parents favor her for years, but that was beyond the pale. The floodgates opened. Aunt Lucia had been keeping a mental catalogue of every slight, every unfair moment, every time my parents had treated me like an afterthought. Your cousin Maya noticed it too. She asked me why your parents hate you. They don't hate me, I said automatically, then caught myself. Actually, maybe they do. They don't hate you, sweetheart. They just never learned to see you. Through Lucia, I connected with other relatives who'd witnessed the favoritism. Uncle Pete, who'd always wondered why I worked through college while Ivy partied. Cousin Maya, who'd been horrified by the Christmas gift disparity. Even Great Aunt Rose, who'd apparently been complaining about my parents' treatment of me for years. I wasn't building an army. I was simply letting people know I was okay. That I'd landed on my feet. That their concerns about my family situation had been valid. Comment below if you've ever had relatives who saw the truth but stayed quiet. Sometimes silence speaks volumes. The documentation process was methodical. I created spreadsheets tracking every instance of financial favoritism I could remember. Ivy's car at 16 versus my bus passes. Her college tuition versus my student loans. Her shopping sprees versus my thrift store finds. The numbers were staggering. Over 6 years, from age 16 to 22, my parents had spent approximately $180,000 more on Ivy than on me. The Tesla alone was worth more than everything they'd ever bought me combined. I wasn't planning to sue them. I was planning something much more effective. Meanwhile, my blocked phone was apparently buzzing constantly. I knew because Aunt Lucia mentioned it. Your mother called me crying yesterday, she said during one of our monthly lunches. She says you won't return their calls. That's correct. She wants to know if you're okay. I'm better than okay. I'm happy. Lucia studied my face. You do look different. Lighter somehow. That's what happens when you stop carrying other people's expectations. The family gossip network was working exactly as I'd hoped. Every relative who saw me thriving, every conversation about my success, every mention of my happiness, it all filtered back to my parents. They were learning secondhand that I didn't need them. That I was building a life they weren't part of. That their threats and manipulation had backfired spectacularly. Subscribe now if you want to see how this plays out, because their next move will shock you. By month 8, I'd been promoted again. Marketing director, with a team of 12 and a salary that put me firmly in the upper middle class. I bought a condo in Cherry Creek, the kind of place I'd dreamed about as a kid. I furnished it exactly how I wanted. No hand-me-downs, no practical choices, no compromises. Every piece reflected my taste, my style, my vision of home. I threw a housewarming party and invited my new friends, my colleagues, and yes, some family members. The ones who'd always treated me with respect. Aunt Lucia posted pictures on Facebook. My beautiful home, my genuine smile, my circle of people who actually valued me. I knew my parents would see those photos. I knew they'd realize what they'd lost. But I wasn't done yet. The final piece of my plan was the most important. Complete indifference to their approval. I stopped checking if they'd seen my social media posts. Stopped wondering what they thought about my success. Stopped caring whether they were proud of me. For the first time in 24 years, I was living for an audience of one, myself. And that's when everything started falling apart for them. Because while I was building my empire, Ivy was destroying hers. And soon, they'd need the daughter they'd thrown away to save the one they'd spoiled. What goes around comes around. And it was about to come around hard. 2 years of silence. 2 years of building my empire while theirs crumbled. I was in my office reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant buzzed in. Ms. Chen. There's a woman on line 3 who says she's your mother. She sounds upset. I stared at the blinking light. For 2 years, I'd wondered what it would feel like when this moment came. Now I knew. Nothing. I felt absolutely nothing. Put her through. Zara. Mom's voice was raw, desperate. Oh, thank God you answered. We need to talk. No, we don't. Please just listen. It's about Ivy. She's in trouble. I leaned back in my leather chair, watching snow fall on downtown Denver. What kind of trouble? The Tesla got repossessed last month. She dropped out of college again. And this boyfriend of hers, he's not good to her. Subscribe before I reveal what I said next, because this conversation will make you rethink everything about family loyalty. That's unfortunate, I said, my voice steady as glass. Zara, she needs help. We need help. The wedding's in 2 weeks and everything's falling apart. The venue wants payment up front, the caterer's threatening to cancel, and Ivy's having panic attacks every day. Sounds stressful. Long pause. We were hoping. We thought maybe you could. Could what, Mom? Fix it. Like I always did. You're successful now. You have money. You could help your sister. My sister. I laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. The same sister who got a $75,000 car while I got a $3 candle. That was different, was it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks exactly the same. Ivy makes a mess, and you expect me to clean it up. Mom's voice cracked. She's your family. No, she's not. The words came out calm, final. Family doesn't steal from each other. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. I don't know what you mean, she whispered. Grandma Chen's college fund. $50,000. Designated specifically for my education. Ring any bells? The sharp intake of breath told me everything. How did I find out you stole my inheritance? Hired a lawyer. Amazing what public records can tell you when you know where to look. We didn't steal anything. We used that money for family expenses. You used it to buy Ivy's first car. Then her clothes, her trips, her lifestyle. While I worked 25 hours a week and took out student loans. Comment. Exposed, if you think she deserved to know the truth. Zara, please. We can explain. There's nothing to explain. You had a choice between your daughters and you chose. Every single time you chose Ivy. That's not true. Christmas morning, 2023. Tesla versus candle. Your choice. Mom started crying. Real, ugly sobs that might have moved me once upon a time. We made mistakes, she choked out. But we love you. We've always loved you. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me. The responsible one. The one who'd fix your problems and never complain. But you never loved me. That's not. When I left that day, you threatened to have me arrested. Your own daughter. For driving a car I'd been paying for. Your father was angry. Your father was showing me exactly what I meant to him. And you stood there and let him. The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. What do you want? She finally whispered. Money. An apology. What will it take for you to help us? And there it was. The moment I'd been unconsciously preparing for since that Christmas morning. I want you to understand something, I said, my voice soft but steel-edged. I don't owe you anything. Not money, not forgiveness, not help. You spent 24 years teaching me that I don't matter. Congratulations. I learned the lesson. Zara, I have a life now. A real life with people who value me. I'm not your backup plan anymore. But Ivy needs to learn what I learned. That actions have consequences. That the world doesn't owe her anything just because she's pretty and charming. Still not subscribing. Comment why. Because what happened next will haunt them forever. So that's it. Mom's voice turned bitter. You're just going to abandon your family. You abandoned me first. I'm just making it official. I could hear Dad in the background, demanding to know what I'd said. Mom covered the phone, but I caught fragments. Won't help. Knows about the money. Says we chose. Zara. Dad's voice now, sharp with familiar anger. You listened to me. Hung up. Then I blocked their number. Again. My assistant knocked. Everything okay? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Everything's perfect. 'Cause it was. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself. And it felt incredible. 6 months later, I got promoted to regional marketing director. Corner office on the 20th floor, 6-figure salary, company car. Everything I'd dreamed of as that invisible girl in the basement bedroom. The family updates came through Aunt Lucia, who'd become my unofficial intelligence network. Ivy's wedding got cancelled, she told me over lunch. Couldn't afford the venue after all. I cut into my salmon, unbothered. She's moved back in with your parents. The boyfriend left when the money dried up. Of course he did. Ivy had never learned that love without conditions isn't really love at all. Your mother asked if I thought you'd reconsider helping. I looked up from my plate. What did you tell her? That successful people don't get there by enabling failure. Subscribe now, because the final twist will show you exactly what happens when the golden child loses her shine. The calls kept coming, but to my assistant now. Ivy sobbing about needing just a small loan. Dad demanding I step up for family. Mom alternating between guilt trips and rage. I had my assistant send the same response every time. Miss Chen is unavailable and has asked not to be contacted by this number. Meanwhile, my life bloomed. I bought a house in the mountains, adopted a rescue dog named Phoenix, started dating a kind man who thought my independence was attractive, not threatening. I posted pictures sometimes, not to hurt them but because I was genuinely happy. My hiking trips, my dinner parties, my promotions. A life lived in full color after 24 years of grayscale. Through the family grapevine, I learned the truth was spreading. Relatives were asking uncomfortable questions about the college fund, about Christmas morning, about why their successful daughter wanted nothing to do with them. The narrative was shifting. I wasn't the ungrateful child who'd abandoned her family. I was the daughter who'd finally had enough. Comment karma. If you think they got what they deserved. The most beautiful part. I didn't have to destroy them. They destroyed themselves by choosing favorites, by stealing from me, by treating love like a transaction. I just refused to save them from the consequences. Some nights, I'd sit on my deck overlooking the city lights and feel something I'd never experienced before. Complete peace. No guilt, no obligation, no desperate need for approval. Just the quiet satisfaction of a life built entirely on my own terms. They taught me I was disposable. I'd learned the lesson so well that I disposed of them first. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's indifference. It's building something so beautiful that their absence becomes a gift, not a loss. My parents spent 24 years teaching me that I didn't matter. The irony. In learning that lesson, I discovered I was the only one who ever did. They wanted a daughter who'd fix their problems forever. Instead, they created a woman who fixed her own life and walked away from theirs. Have you ever had to choose yourself over toxic family? Comment your story below. You're not alone in this. The golden child lost her shine, and suddenly they needed the one they'd thrown away. But some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Subscribe for more stories of people who refuse to play the game. Because next week, we're diving into workplace favoritism that'll make your blood boil. I'm Zara. And this is how I learned that the best revenge is a life they can't touch. Like and share if this resonated, because someone in your life needs to hear this story.